How to handle guest cancellation and refund. A reservation of a listing can be canceled by the guests or, occasionally, by the host. The host can increase net profit by several percent if both types of cancellations are handled properly. Although both topics are about cancellation, the issues and concerns entailed are quite different. If a host adopts an appropriate cancellation policy, as discussed later, guest cancellations are generally favorable for the host. However, the host still needs to manage such cancellations properly to avoid potential penalties from Airbnb. These costly penalties are often overlooked by hosts, but we will explain how to avoid them later. In this video, we will focus on how to handle guest cancellations and address host cancellations in another video. In our integrated management, operations, and pricing system, our goal is to develop a hosting service that minimizes the likelihood of host cancellations. Moreover, we aim to maintain a high occupancy rate even in the face of guest cancellations. Consequently, the actual revenue generated during peak seasons might even surpass 100% of the anticipated revenue shown on the booking calendar. This surplus during peak seasons can serve as a buffer, compensating for reduced income during slow seasons. Airbnb and VRBO both offer a variety of cancellation policies regarding guest cancellations of a booking. These can be categorized as strict, moderate, firm, and flexible. Below is a brief explanation of these cancellation policies for all bookings fewer than 28 consecutive days. Rules are different if longer than 28 days. A. Strict cancellation policy. To receive a full refund, the guest must cancel within 48 hours of booking, and the cancellation must occur at least 14 days before check-in. If the guest cancels between 7 and 14 days before check-in, the host receives 50% for all nights. If the guest cancels after that, the host receives 100% for all nights. B. Moderate cancellation policy. The guest can cancel up to 5 days before check-in for a full refund, and the host won't be paid. If the guest cancels after that, the host is paid for each night the guest stays, plus one additional night and 50% for all unspent nights. C. Firm cancellation policy. To receive a full refund, the guest must cancel at least 30 days before check-in. The guest can also get a full refund within 48 hours of booking if the cancellation occurs at least 14 days before check-in. If the guest cancels between 7 and 30 days before check-in, the host receives 50% for all nights. If the guest cancels less than 7 days before check-in, the host receives 100% for all nights. D. Flexible cancellation policy. The guest can cancel up to 24 hours before check-in for a full refund, and the host won't be paid. If the guest cancels less than 24 hours before check-in and never check-in, the host is paid for the first night. If the guest cancels after check-in, the host is paid for each night the guest stays, plus one additional night. From the host's point of view, the strict policy is the most workable one as it is straightforward. The strict policy is less guest-friendly, which might result in fewer bookings. However, the host can compensate for potentially fewer bookings using other methods. We update this video series periodically, so make sure to subscribe to this channel for regular updates. For a limited time, subscribers can email strtextmaster@gmail.com to request complimentary private videos, playlists, and also enjoy free membership at www.strtext.com. Now let's consider guest cancellation during high seasons. During high travel seasons, demand exceeds supply, and guests may only have the option to book a listing with a strict policy anyway. Guests can also buy insurance from Airbnb for refunds in case they need to cancel the booking. So, a strict policy may not significantly affect the booking rate during high seasons. Additionally, there are various ways for the host to increase the occupancy rate to offset the drawbacks of a strict cancellation policy. During the high season, a strict cancellation policy allows the host to sell the listing more than once if a guest cancels. Therefore, it is possible that you can earn more than 100% of your original pricing calendar. Now let's consider guest cancellation during low seasons. During low seasons, it's much harder to have a listing booked. Once a booking is canceled, the listing may not be rebooked. It's not advisable for the host to take such a risk. Therefore, a strict cancellation policy is recommended for both high and low seasons. It's worth noting that guests can still cancel a booking within 48 hours of booking, but it must be more than 7 days before the check-in date. Hosts should avoid confusing or complicated discussions within the first 48 hours of a booking. Under older Airbnb policies, Airbnb might grant guests a full refund under certain extenuating circumstances. However, Airbnb has now greatly limited such exceptions, making it unlikely for guests to get a refund under the new strict policy, assuming the host is not at fault for the cancellation. It is crucial for hosts to ensure they're not at fault for causing a cancellation. Otherwise, not only will the guest receive a full refund, but Airbnb might also impose a severe penalty on the host. Some guests might exploit this loophole to reclaim their money and damage the hosting service badly. When a guest cancels a booking, several scenarios might occur. This can get more complicated if it involves longer bookings, such as more than a week or a month. Here are a couple of scenarios. A. The guest understands that they booked the listing under the strict policy. They cancel their booking online, and Airbnb issues them a partial refund based on the policy. In such a case, the guest has settled the refund with Airbnb, and the host doesn't need to get involved. The calendar then reopens, and the listing can be rebooked. B. The guest knows about the strict policy, so they understand they won't get a full refund or any refund. However, they kindly inform the host without mentioning a refund. If the guest has already canceled the booking, the host needs to monitor Resolution Center to check if the guest requests money at later date. If the guest has only informed the host about the cancellation but hasn't canceled the booking formally, then the host needs to evaluate what to do next based on previous communication. Note that cleaning fee is refunded to the guest if the guests canceled the booking before check-in date. Sometimes, the guest cancels the booking but later submits a request money claim in the Resolution Center. The host must determine if the host is not at fault for the cancellation. If the guest can demonstrate that the host is to blame, the guest will receive a full refund, and Airbnb might levy a hefty penalty on the host in addition to full refund. Beware, the host may lose twice. C. The guest wishes to cancel but asks the host for a full refund, believing they deserve it because they didn't use the facility and informed the host in advance. Such guests might even threaten to report the host to Airbnb. In this case, the host should ask the guests to contact Airbnb for clarification. Such guests will not believe what you tell them. After the guest has spoken to Airbnb, the host can then decide whether to provide a partial refund or none at all. Do make sure the host is not at fault for cancellation. It is important to note that a guest's payment includes rent, Airbnb service fee, and occupancy tax, which can add up to 20 to 35% of the total payment. Guests might not realize that the host doesn't receive any of this money. Hosts should communicate this to guests properly at the appropriate time. Another vital point is that if the host only provides a partial refund, the guest doesn't proportionally get the service fee and occupancy tax back. The host must offer a full refund for the guest to recover the Airbnb service fee and tax. This can be another source of misunderstanding between guests and hosts. Airbnb representatives often make mistake in explaining this rule and confuse the host and the guest. But the host can take advantage of this 20% to 35% fee, tax and gain appreciation from the guest. Assuming the guest hasn't canceled the booking and is willing to work with the host can assess the total amount of Airbnb service fee and tax that the guest could save if the booking is altered to a one-day stay with the amount the host wishes to charge. After the guest accepts the request, they can at least get the Airbnb service and occupancy tax proportionally refunded. If this is explained well by the host, guests usually appreciate this gesture and accept the alteration. The host earns extra money, and now can open the listing for new bookings. Therefore, make more than 100% for the listing. Please contact us if you want to know how to do this properly. So, under the strict policy, hosts can rely on the current booking. If handled properly, the host can sell the listing more than once if the first guest cancels. This is one of the many reasons why the strict policy is generally more favorable for hosts. In our next video, we will discuss the issues involved if the host needs to cancel the booking of a guest. To learn more about how to handle cancellations by the guest or the host, stay tuned for more tips and videos. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. As a subscriber, you can request private videos or playlists by emailing us at strtextmaster@gmail.com. That's all for today. Catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.